All right, welcome back. Game changing podcast. What is this, like our fifth episode or something? Today we got a real special guest, Dunno from First Class Fantasy, here with us in the building. Thanks so much for joining. Here to talk some NBA. That's your specialty, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, let's just get right into it. Let's start with the East. The West is obviously the much stronger conference. The East right now has five teams above 500. How many you think on the year there'll be more than five?
I'd say there's a max of six. Right now, there's five or six, right?
There's
But
five. Goes through the Knicks.
what about the Heat? They're 18 and 18, so they're sitting right at it.
Okay, they're right at it. The Hornets are 17 and 18. The Raptors are 17 and 19.
I think the safe bet is definitely. I think at least five will. I would be very embarrassed for the East if five teams were not. But I mean, this is the most important part of the season. It really starts to get tough down the stretch, playing a lot of conference games and stuff. So I would say at least five, possibly six, but I don't think any more than six. Six is definitely the max that it
I
could
think,
go to.
yeah, I think we'll see six, but I think we'll see some changing. Like right now it goes 76ers, Nets, Bucks, Celtics, Knicks, Heat. I think in that top six, I think the top three will stay the same: 76ers, Nets, Bucks. But then um, I think the Heat will probably jump the Knicks, before the season's out, just being at the All-Star break now. I mean, there's a lot of time left. And then I think the Hornets could possibly make a move. I don't know. Um, and then like on the bubble of playoff, you got Raptors, Bulls, Pacers, Hawks, maybe.
Hmm.
If the Hawks, I could see them heating up.
One team I think that possibly, if they get really hot and it kind of stays where it is now, where these teams are not really that good, but like kind
Yeah,
of like around 500 fringe, I could see the Wizards starting to make a run because, I mean, they started off terribly and they've
that's
been
true.
a lot better as of recently. Russ and Beal are starting to click a little bit better, and they're starting to, Russ is playing a lot better than he was to start season. He was playing atrocious, and he's really picked it up a lot. So I could see them making a run. I think the
They're
Pacers have a good core group of guys, especially this year. I mean, Miles Turner's played great defensively, and then
right.
Sabonis and Brogdon have both played pretty well. So I could see them making a charge through it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat really turned things on because for a while they were out with Jimmy Butler was out for like a month or two,
Yeah, he was out for a little bit of time.
and Bam obviously was gone for a while. So I mean, I think we could do some shifting, and I think eventually, I feel like by the end of the season, the Nets have a good chance to be the one seed, especially with all the rumors about the Andre Drummond buyout and how he is supposedly a favorite to go to the Nets. I don't know if he will. I'm pretty sure it's between him or the Nets and the Lakers. So one of them will get him. And if the Nets get him, I would see them as the one seed, but I don't think the top three seeds they really change much. It'll definitely be those three teams because they're easily the best three teams in the East.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into like the next point. We're talking about the Nets. They just got Blake Griffin, obviously. These rumors about Andre Drummond. So I mean, if they get him, are they title favorites?
I don't know if I would call them favorites, but they're definitely my pick from the East. By the playoffs, I think they'll be pretty gelled. And I think the Sixers will be a tough team to beat. I don't think the Bucks. I mean, they've obviously been at the top for a while now, but I think they're kind of, I don't know, they're just not as strong as they once were. They don't have that same mojo. So I could see. I think the Nets will come out of the East, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Sixers. They've been playing really well. But by that time, I think, especially if they get Andre Drummond, because that's the one real thing they're missing right now. They're missing a true, really good center. Because I mean, DeAndre Jordan's just not really that. He used to be good, but he's nowhere close to what he used to be. And I think that one interior presence could help them a lot. A good interior presence, because I mean, they've got a bunch of average to below average post players. So
Right. So I mean, they would be starting. Would Blake Griffin start?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't think they would start Blake Griffin. I would see it as Kyrie, Joe Harris, KD. I guess he could start.
I mean, you got Kyrie, Harden, KD. They're gonna start.
Yeah, those three will for sure start.
But I'm saying, like, could you have Blake and DeAndre possibly,
I don't think you would be
or
able to
Andre?
get
Sorry.
together. One of them would definitely be a six man, and I feel like it would be more likely that Blake Griffin's the six man because I would assume at least that they would start Drummond over Jordan, but
I
I
mean,
don't know.
Drummond so far. I mean, he's the best rebounder in the NBA.
He has been for a long. He's a really good rebounder. The thing is, he does all of this. He gets like I saw this. It was from a GM across the league, and he said Andre Drummond can give you 30 and 20 a night and still have no impact on the game. And it's kind of crazy to think because I mean it's true. And I guess that's just because of how bad of a team he's on. So I would like to see him because I mean he's always played with terrible teams because he was with the Pistons for
Right.
a while and they were terrible. But I
Right.
think he would really help that team because I mean having that big interior post player that can get you 30 points if he really needs to really would open the floor better for Harden, Kyrie, and KD, to give him more jump shots and stuff. And obviously, they would still have the ball a lot more, so his role would not be that big, but it would still open the floor for them to do more, I think.
Yeah, I think. I mean, even with Blake now, I mean, I think Blake will help. Not only, I think the biggest impact Blake Griffin, going back to him, is going to have is just kind of a leadership role.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you got a lot of guys coming in, a lot of big personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie, Harden, and I mean KD can cause some issues as well. And I just think Blake coming in can maybe settle the dust a little bit. Because when Harden first came to town, they didn't play that well.
I don't know. I understand that though. It takes a while for three ball dominant players to get used to each other. So I mean, I think by the time it comes to the playoffs, I think they'll be all perfectly gelled, and especially if they get Drummond in now that they have Blake. So by then, I think they would probably be pretty gelled. But I agree because I mean, Blake's played with probably one of the best leaders of this decade, Chris Paul, and so I'm
Right.
sure he's learned a lot from Chris Paul. And this year, in the past few years, I guess with Detroit, I mean, he is a vet, so I would assume he would have that experience to help the younger post players. Because I mean, other than DeAndre Jordan, all their posts are pretty young. So
Yeah. I just worry. You look at playoffs, coming down the stretch, they're not deep.
no, they're really not. I mean,
I mean, their top's probably the best in the game.
oh
Their
for sure,
their
easy,
big three is as good as anybody else in the game. But I mean,
easy.
their bench is horrible.
I mean, let's see. They're starting five, and then assuming they get Drummond, or
Sure.
we'll count him, and then the really Nick Claxton, he's not very good, but I mean he's all right. And then Jeff Green's not terrible. But like other than that, I mean, that's an 8-man rotation. I mean, I'm sure by the time it gets to playoffs, you would only really have a 7 or 8-man rotation, but getting there, you're gonna need to rest a lot of these stars. And so it's gonna be hard having that lack of depth, really.
Yeah, I mean they have guards. They still have Dinwiddie, correct?
Yeah, but he tore his ACL.
Okay. They have. I'm looking. They got Shamit, and
I mean, he's okay.
he's
He's not
okay.
great.
Yeah, yeah. But like Reggie Perry, who's that? This is one of their forward, centers. I'm just looking at the roster. They just have nobody down low. Claxton, like you
Yeah,
mentioned.
Claxton's probably out of that group. I mean, like tonight they started Kyrie, Landry Shamet, Tyler Johnson, Jeff Green, and Nick Claxton. Or is that on the court now? I don't know if that's who they started, but that's on the court right now, I guess.
Yeah.
That team, I mean, that they have out there, that's Kyrie and I won't say four nobodies because I think Jeff Green has a pretty good role within that team as, a defensive stopper or whatever. And he's
Right.
earned his respect through being that defensive stopper. But I mean, he's not a go get you 20 points that you need when
He's
all
not a
your
game
stars are
changer.
out.
He's no game changer.
Yeah.
Um,
He's not going to go out and get you 20 points every night when your stars are out, when Kyrie's and KD are sitting and it's just Harden and I mean, it's hard to win a game by yourself.
yeah. I think it's going to be crucial for them. I think they want these rumors to come true. They need Andre Drummond because they just need another big man.
Yeah, for sure. And Blake's not the big he used to be, but I think he will be able to help a little bit. He used to be that high flying guy. That's just not him anymore. He's gotten a lot better spacing the floor, which I think will help. But I mean, like you said, leadership and I think will probably be his biggest aspect, along with his shooting and trying to do as much as he can down low.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it'll be interesting to see. Let's move over to the West a little bit. Are the Lakers surefire out of the West?
I wouldn't say surefire, especially and I think with Anthony Davis, the Lakers, when they play, are the best team in the East or in the West, rather.
West, yes.
When they're playing their game, they are the best team in the West. But this year, especially, they've had some mishaps where they just don't show up to play, and it's happened 5 or 6 times where they just don't play at all.
Yeah. I'm looking here. So we got some bubble teams, playoff wise. You got the Mavs sitting at the 8. You got the Grizzlies sitting at the 9, Warriors 10. And then there's a big drop to the Pelicans, Thunder. I don't think either one of those will make a run. Do you see the Warriors? That's kind of who I look at as being, more could have a bigger impact. Like Mavs, Grizzlies, they're just kind of there. They're good teams, but I don't see them making any kind of big runs. I could see the Warriors though putting together something. Do you see that, or do you see something else?
I don't think they're gonna. Obviously, they've got talented players, but I don't see them making a big enough run to push into that 7-6 range. Sure, they can make it as an 8 seed, but I don't see them getting to where they are, a 7th or 6th seed. I can't see that happening. I wouldn't be surprised if they made the 8 seed over the Mavs,
Right.
but I can't see them getting much higher than that.
So you don't see them getting. So the Nuggets are 2 games ahead of them, and they're in the 6th spot right now. You don't see them getting up there.
Well, they also the Warriors have one more game played.
That's true.
So they're a game back. So I don't see them getting up there. And I mean, I think the Nuggets are a lot deeper and have a lot more players than the Warriors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than Steph and Draymond, I mean, they don't have much because, I mean, Wiggins, he's okay, hasn't played great, hasn't played terrible.
Right.
Wiseman has been underwhelming to say the least. And then, I mean, but they don't have that many great guys. I mean, they have Steph, obviously, who's a top player in the league, but I don't know if he's going to be enough to bring them up to a 6 seed where, like the Nuggets, they've got Jokic, who is probably, he's, in my opinion, second voting in MVP right now, at least.
Yeah.
And Jamal Murray's been playing really good as of recently. And I mean, they have a pretty deep team, so I can't see them competing with a team like that as of right now.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I got a lot of belief in Curry as a player. That's kind of why I lean to that. But more, let's go back up to the top a little bit. So if it's not the Lakers, do you think it's more of a Jazz Suns, or do you think it's a Clipper, Trailblazer, even Nuggets team that makes it out?
I don't think it'll be a a Clipper, Trailblazer, Nuggets.
Okay.
I can't see it. I mean, the Nuggets are good, but they're not special enough to make it that deep. Trailblazers kind of the same thing. They have Dame, and I guess I mean they'll have Nurkic coming back from the injury, but I mean to start the season he was pretty underwhelming, so
Right.
I can't see them. I mean the Clippers are the only team outside the top three that I think like my or the last three that I've named at least have a chance, but I still can't see them beating the Lakers, Suns, or Jazz. And I would lean to the Jazz just because of how they've been playing this year, and their core group of players is pretty talented, and I mean they have decent depth. And I mean you got to give a lot of credit to the Suns because I mean coming into the year, I mean no one knew what they were going to do, and they started off really hot and then kind of cooled down, but have been going back up as of recently. So I could see them making a deep playoff run, but I can't see them making it to the finals just because they don't really have anyone on the team that's been there.
Right.
Chris Paul's never been to the finals, I don't think. I mean, Devin Booker's obviously never been to the finals. Like no one on that team has made that finals run, that deep playoff run that I think is very valuable in the NBA. Like obviously we saw last year with the Lakers, pretty much every single one of their players on the team had made a deep playoff run, and I think
Right.
that
Right.
that helps a lot. And that's one thing with the Jazz as well. I mean, they don't really have that deep playoff run experience either, but I think they have more talent than the Suns, so I would have to lean Jazz if I weren't to pick the Lakers. But I think with AD coming back, I think the Lakers will make a pretty strong push, and we'll see. We'll see. Because, I mean, they've had, like I said earlier, some underwhelming performances, but I think they'll definitely be able to kick it into gear, especially with LeBron kind of honing it in, and getting AD back should be really good for that Laker team. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, to me, you kind of hit on it. I think the Jazz are a more complete team. I think the Jazz are a better basketball team. I think the Suns just they're kind of on a roller coaster. They play a lot with momentum. And like the short off season they had this year, they went 8-0 in the bubble last season. And then the short off season, and I think they missed out on the playoffs last year in the bubble by like a game or half a game, and everybody was like, oh, they should have gotten in, but playoffs is by record. It's not a committee picking. So they obviously didn't get in. But I think they just play off more momentum, which in a playoff, if they're hot at the right time, that can work. But I don't see them like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the roster now. I mean, they have a pretty complete team. I still don't think it's as quite as good as the Jazz team, but they, like you said, I feel like they do play off momentum. And if the time's right and they get hot, they're going to be a pretty tough team to beat because they have someone at each level that can score. So
Right.
it'll be tough to beat them if they're in their game, and even when they're not in their game, that's still a tough team to beat. So, but like I said earlier, they don't have that deep experience that I think every championship team really needs. I think every championship team needs one or two guys that have been there and can show the young guys and everyone else what it's like and what the level needs to be to make it there.
Right. I mean, they have a great leader in Chris Paul, but he's not a winning leader.
I don't know if I'd go to say that far, but I mean, every team that Chris Paul has been on has been good. Like last year, that Thunder team was a 7 seed when they had like a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs. So I think teams that have Chris Paul win, but he's even with those really good Clipper teams, they never got over that hump. So we'll see.
I guess we will see. All right. Let's go on kind of more player. MVP. Is it LeBron? Is it Jokic? Is it Joel?
For me, it right now at least it goes Embiid, Jokic, LeBron. And I
Okay.
think it's when it comes down to it, it's really an Embiid Jokic run. I don't see LeBron winning it unless he goes on a crazy spell these next 3 months or 2 months or however long the rest of the season is. But right now, it is definitely Joel Embiid's award to lose.
Okay. I agree with you on that. Um, right now, Joel Embiid is plus 200 to win. LeBron's plus 250. Jokic is plus 450. So they have, Caesars, and they usually know what they're talking about. Has Jokic as third, and then Luka, and then big drop off. But you think it's definitely those three? You don't see anybody else
I
sneaking
can't
up?
see anyone else really competing for it. I mean, Giannis maybe, but I can't really see it. And I don't think one of those players. I mean, obviously you have the three really good players for Brooklyn, but they've all had their fair share of sitting out of games. So I don't see the league giving it to one of those three guys. So for me, it's definitely one of those three that we mentioned: Jokic, Embiid, LeBron. I can't see anyone else really winning it.
I mean, Embiid, he's averaging over 30 points a game. I mean, he's putting, getting boards. Like I think it was 11 a game or something like that. I mean, I'm with you. It's his award to lose. And I think with the Brooklyn guys, I think it's gonna be hard for any of them as long as they're together to win an MVP.
Yeah, for sure.
You got three guys that good playing on the same team.
And I mean, like they always say, the MVP usually goes to the best player on the best team. And obviously, the Sixers aren't the best team in the entire league, but they are the one seed in the East. So I feel like that helps Joel Embiid a lot, whereas it hurts Jokic because I mean they're only the sixth seed. I think
Right.
right now, if the Nuggets were the one seed, I would probably lean Jokic, but that's not where they are. So you have to go with Joel just because of their record.
All right. Yeah, I like that. So we had the All-Star game the other night. And what I took away from the whole game, I didn't take much away from the game, but I did take something away from halftime, which was the dunk contest. I thought it was the worst dunk contest I've ever seen. I don't know if it was the worst in NBA history, but it was the worst dunk contest I've ever seen. It was boring. There was only three guys. I mean, it was awful. What did you think?
I don't think it's the worst. It's hard to say it's the worst ever because I mean we had some pretty terrible ones, pretty much up until probably the 2000s or 2010s. Really is when they
Sure.
started to get
Sure.
really exciting. So I feel like it's hard to say that it's the worst ever, but it's definitely one of the worst I've ever seen. And I think part of it is they didn't have one guy who was really like known. You
That's
know,
yeah. I
they didn't
mean,
have that one superstar dunker that everyone knows. I mean, obviously uh Cassius Stanley he broke Zion's vertical record at Duke. So I
right.
mean, he's known as a high flyer, but he's not a high profile NBA dunker. Anthony Simons, who I think ended up winning, right?
Yes.
And I mean, I honestly think
He had
Cassius
one
Stanley,
dunk
yeah,
the
Cassius
whole
Stanley should,
season.
yeah. And Cassius Stanley didn't have a single dunk all year because he's been playing in the G League.
I don't even understand how you get in the dunk contest without being a known dunker.
I did. What I think it comes down to is obviously because of this season and how it is. No one wanted to really um do the dunk contest, I guess. But I mean, like, I don't even know who the other guy was. I can't even remember.
Obi Toppin.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously in college, he was a high profile dunker. He did windmills in games, but that's nowhere close to what we've been used to seeing with, Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, these
Right.
high level dunk contests that we've been seeing the past 5, 6 years. So, I mean, it's probably one of the worst I've seen. And I think part of it is, like you said, it was three guys, none of which who are super high profile dunkers. There was one, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago where it was Hamidou Diallo won. And I mean, that one wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. It
But
still had the atmosphere. I think the atmosphere helps a lot, having a good atmosphere. And obviously, we didn't have that. So I think in a normal year, it wouldn't have been as bad as people think it was because we would have had 5 guys or however many, and there would
Right.
have been fans there. So I think it would have brought in a little more energy, made it a little more fun. But how it was pretty bad.
I mean, there was nothing special. They were all doing, I like the dunks where you bring out props and stuff. I mean, Obi Toppin had the one where like he jumped over Julius Randle and like his dad, but like he didn't really even clear him. And then, I mean, who was it? Was it last year? Did Gordon jump over Taco Fall?
Yeah, he did.
Like, that's the kind of stuff I want to see. And I know this year was different with COVID and stuff, but there were no real tricks. There were some good dunks, sure, but in 3 NBA like no names basically. I mean, if you weren't a big NBA fan, Cassius Stanley, like you say, he's been in the G Leagues.
And the only reason you would know him is from Duke,
right?
Or high school. And Obi Toppin, if you watch college basketball, you probably know who that is. But a lot of people don't know who Anthony Simons is. So I'm pretty sure he was one of the guys that skipped college to prepare for the NBA. I don't know if that's correct. That I have a feeling that that's what he did, but
a
lot of people wouldn't know who he was.
I didn't know who he was. I knew the other two because I followed college basketball, but I didn't know who Simons was. But like Obi was only good for like 1 year in college. I mean, his last year.
Yeah, he did not attend college. He skipped to prepare for the NBA draft. So a lot of people wouldn't know who he was because he wasn't in that college atmosphere.
Right.
That brings a lot of people that hype or whatever.
What was weird to me was we had stars in the 3-point contest, though. You had Steph, who's arguably the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. You had Tatum, who's a big star. You had who else was in it? You had
Mike
a couple.
Conley was the other finalist.
Yeah, Mike Conley was the other final. You had big names. And
I think part of it really is due to obviously there is more risk for like injury and stuff like that when you're doing those crazy dunks and stuff than a 3-point contest where it's kind of low profile, I guess.
Right.
And especially when I feel like it's a snowball effect. When you see one guy join, I feel like it makes you more likely to join. So like, and I feel like that's both for the dunk and 3-point contest. When the field is stronger, it's usually because one guy joined and then everyone else followed.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what happened with the 3-point contest, but obviously not with the dunk contest this year. But like, yeah, it was an exciting 3-point contest, like you said. I mean, Steph won on the last shot, which was exciting. But
I mean,
it was
Steph
a
put
lot
on a
of
show.
contest.
Steph put on a show. Talking about Steph, I've had a lot lately ask whether I think he's the greatest shooter of all time, and my answer is yes. Is your answer yes? Or if not, who is it?
Pure shooter, I would go no. But like if we're talking like crazy deep threes, like pulling up from anywhere really, I would say yes. But like if we were to get them to shoot on the 3-point line, that's it. I would probably take Ray Allen or Reggie Miller over him.
Yeah.
But
I can respect that.
The way that he plays the game and the way he changed the game, it's hard not to say that he's the best shooter of all time. So I guess I would give him the title, the best shooter of all time. But pure 3-point shooting, if we're standing on the line, I feel like it would be pretty close between him, Ray Allen, and Reggie Miller. But I guess I would have to give him the title as the best because the way he's really changed the game.
I just think, he's just expanded the game in ways that Ray Allen and Reggie Miller just didn't. Now you see guys pulling up from half court.
One other guy who I think could be as good as, or if not better, is Dame Lillard. He shoots an absurd amount of 30-footers.
He shoots from deep
at a pretty good percentage. So I think he's really, as of right now, the only person that you could compete with Steph Curry for those deep threes, like 30-footers. Here, I'll look it up real quick. But his 30-footer percentage is, I think, the best in the league, or if not second behind Steph, but he's for sure up there.
Both are out of this world. Let's see.
Yeah, last season he broke the NBA record for most threes from 30 feet, or 30 to 40 feet, and he broke it by a percentage of 116%. So he really smashed the record.
He dominated. Yeah, I mean,
pretty much. But I think he's the only one right now, and I think it's kind of sad that we haven't seen Klay Thompson, because I think he's as good of a shooter as Steph is, like pure shooting ability. But obviously, we haven't been able to see him put on performances in, I guess, 2 years now.
Yeah.
So, but I think in his prime, he was close to the same shooter as Steph was. He wasn't pulling from deep like Steph, but like I said earlier, with if we're standing on the 3-point line, he would definitely be up there as best pure shooters.
I think Steph, if you want to compare those two, I think Steph's better off the dribble. Klay's better off the pass.
Yeah, for sure. Like there was the one game where Klay Thompson had 62 points on like 6 dribbles or something.
Yeah, I mean that's freaky.
Off the catch, he is freaky good. Whereas Steph's obviously a better get your own shot kind of guy, which I think helps with the best shooter of all time. He can create his own shot, which I think helps his cause a lot. Because I mean, a lot of these other guys, Reggie Miller was probably the only other out of those 3 that really created their shot as well as Steph does. Ray Allen and Klay are definitely pure shooters. Were off the catch a lot more than Reggie and Steph were.
Yeah. All right. One last topic here. Talk about some rookies. Rookie of the year, is it LaMelo?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think, for me, the top 5 rookies this year have been, LaMelo would be number 1. I think Emmanuel Quickley, as of right now, is probably number 2.
Wow.
Desmond Bane for the Memphis Grizzlies has been really, really good. Sadiq Bey for the Pistons has been really good. And then I would probably go Anthony Edwards. But I mean, but for sure, it's hard to not give LaMelo the Rookie of the Year by the way he's playing, and especially because he is on a playoff team. But he has had probably the best impact on his team. But I think Emmanuel Quickley definitely will be the runner up for that, really. Unless Anthony Edwards really turns it up in the second half of the season. I think he's the only one that could really make the jump going from where I have him at 5 now to 2. I think he's the only one that could make that jump.
I'm a big Anthony Edwards fan. He seems like a good kid.
Mm-hmm. He's very entertaining. I've watched a lot of his interviews, and like he'll go on TV shows or podcasts like this or whatever, and he's a very entertaining guy to listen to.
I mean, I've seen that one video, that one interview. It's hilarious where there's an Irish guy like talking to him.
Oh yeah. And ask him his accent. Yeah.
Yeah, and he goes, "Where are you from? You know, I love your accent." And he goes, "Can you repeat the question? I couldn't even hear. I was listening to the accent too much." He's a funny guy.
He's a good kid for sure, and he's entertaining, which helps him become. I think nowadays more than ever, you have to have that persona to really become a top superstar.
It's more than just basketball.
It's more, especially now. It's more than just basketball. Back then, you didn't have to do all this talking or whatever. You let your game do the talking, and that's how you got your fame. But now, I think it has a lot to do with off the court persona as well as on the court performance.
Right.
And I think he has the potential to be a phenomenal basketball player. He's got enough athleticism, talent. It's really just that work ethic, which people questioned going into the draft. You know, does he have that motor? Does he have that grind to really? Because I mean, he's talked about being this insane athlete and how he could play any other sport he wanted to. So I think
Yeah, I
it
saw
really comes
that.
down to the how passionate he is about the game of basketball. Because I think the sky's the limit for him. He could be an all-star. He could be just a starter. He could be a role player. It really depends on what he does to elevate his game to take him to that next level.
I pulled up the odds here. LaMelo's minus 550 to win, and Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh yeah, that's one guy that I forgot about. He would probably go in my top 5. I would have to
Yeah,
put him third over Desmond Bain and Sadiq Bey. I would probably put him there instead. He's played really well.
yeah. He was second at like plus 600. So there's a,
Yeah,
I think,
as of right now, it's pretty clear cut that it's LaMelo.
is LaMelo, you think he's already the best ball brother? Say he wins rookie of the year. Is he already the best ball brother?
I feel like it's hard to say that after 1 year. Next year, if he continues to play at the rate he is now, I think you can say that. But I think as for all players, you have to give it some time. And I mean, he's only played for, half a season, and
Right.
he's only been a starter for a handful of games, really, like 10
Not
games.
many.
So I feel like it's hard to say that now, but if he's performing like at this level by the end of the season in the playoffs, even, I think you would say yes, because but it's hard to compare him and LaMelo or LaMelo and Lonzo, because they're pretty different players, really. LaMelo's real flashy scorer, whereas now we've obviously seen Lonzo isn't the scorer that we thought he was. He is
Right.
basically what his role is now as a defender.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's hard to really compare them, but pure basketball skill, I feel like LaMelo is definitely more talented, but I feel like it might be hard to give him the title as the best ball brother right now. He's playing, if he continues to play like he is, he definitely will be, for sure, though.
All right. Well, good talking to you, Dunno.
It's a pleasure.
Everybody go check out his channel at First Class Fantasy. Thanks for coming on. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Hope to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, let's do it.